everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Vahagraphy Talk. This is number 30 already. And we have Chuck, of course, here. Hello, Chuck.
Hello, how you doing, Vahagan?
And today we have our guest of honor. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Nice to see you, Vahagan and
Thank you.
Chuck.
Thank you for joining us. This
Thank
is
you.
a pleasure to speak with you. I've been watching your stuff and listening to you for years now. The first time was, I think, WPPI.
Mhm.
Where I was just blown away by your portraits and weddings, and you're right up my alley because I do portraits and weddings, and so this is a pleasure to be talking to you today.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, so it's amazing to me how your photographs is just so special, and the quality and the composition and the expression on the subject's faces, but we'll get into all that stuff. My first question is, well, before we start, I want to welcome everybody that are streaming in right now in the chats here. My first question to you, how did you get your start and when did you get your start, Bambi?
I started as a professional photographer in about 1984. I was pregnant with my son when I started photography. And I have to tell you, I tell this story to everybody. It is the absolute truth, what I'm going to tell you. And I feel that it's really important for people to hear it. I remember distinctly the day that I changed the course of my life with photography. I've always known I wanted to be a photographer. When I was 5 years old, my parents, when they would go visit people, I was the middle daughter of 3 girls, and I was always in trouble. I was always the one pushing the envelope and getting myself into trouble. But my parents found that if they sat me down on the couch when they went to visit their friends and gave me a photo album, that I could be content for hours. I love pictures. I always have. And so that was something that was really important to me. And then you would think that as much as I loved photography, that when I got married to my high school sweetheart in 1975. We're still married today. We have been married 47 years, I guess.
Great.
And and as much as I love photography, you would think that I would have hired the best photographer around to photograph our wedding, but I didn't. I had a friend who had a good camera, which happened to be a Nikon at the time. But one of the things I learned after my wedding was that cameras don't take pictures, people do. And so needless to say, I was very disappointed in my imagery. I'm from Georgia, and in 1981, my husband walked in the door. We owned our home in Georgia, and he said, "Hey, baby, how do you feel about moving to California?" Well, I'd never been there, so I said, "Hey, let's go." We sold our house in 2 weeks and moved. We literally just up and moved. I'm going to tell you, it wasn't the smartest thing. It was the smartest decision we ever made, but it was not probably the timeliest thing we've ever done, because we sold our house. We just didn't use a real estate agent. We just said, "Hey, how much do you think we should sell it for?" And we made $10,000 on our house. So we thought, move over, Rockefellers. We were like 21 years old or 20 or something like that. And so, so we make the move to California. And then nobody told me that even in 1981, you couldn't buy a house for under $100,000 here in 1981. So needless to say, I start looking for houses, and it's like, not going to be able to buy one. And so at any rate, I had to go get a job. No, I did not get a job as a photographer. I got a job as an executive secretary, but that was before spell check. And anyone that knows me knows that I like to spell phonetically. I have my own creative way of spelling. And but make no mistake, I'm not dumb. I was not interested. And I'm one of those people, I always like to make fun of myself and say that I graduated from high school at the top of the bottom of my class. And it's the truth. It is absolutely the truth. I sailed through high school with about a D plus GPA, maybe 2.0 or whatever it is. But you know what? Again, I'm not dumb. I just was not interested. And if they had said to me, "What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do?" I want to be a photographer. Well, if you'll do this and this is how you can apply math and so forth, I would have been all over it. But as it was in those days, they taught, they had a specific way of teaching and wasn't the way that would appeal to me. So at any rate, fast forward to 1984, and I obviously didn't make it as an executive secretary. My boss loved me to begin with because I'd go get him coffee. As a good Southern girl, I'd walk in his office in the morning. I'd go, "Hey, baby, would you like you some coffee?" And he would just love it because this was like the height of the women's liberation movement. And you know, the other women were like, "Yeah, ain't gonna happen. We ain't getting you no coffee." So, but that only lasted so long. So, at any rate, one of my friends comes up to me and she goes, "Hey, Bambi," she goes, I'm a receptionist at a photography studio, and I noticed that you have a good camera." And he's looking for somebody to photograph weddings. So that is the day that changed my life. And this is how it went. He had a studio in Walnut Creek, California, which is the next little town over. It was an upstairs studio. So I go in the building with my little portfolio underneath my arm, and I start going up the stairs. And he had all these pictures on the wall that were absolutely just incredible. And I was so intimidated when I got to the top of the stairs that I put my hand on the doorknob to walk in. I took my hand off the doorknob, ran down the stairs, and left the building. I was absolutely so afraid he would turn me down. And then this is where my life changed. There was a stoplight at the crosswalk. And so I had to stop, and I went, "You know what? Get your butt, turn yourself around, and you go talk to that guy. What's the worst thing he can say? You know, no, thank you, right?"
Exactly.
So I ran back up the stairs, walked in the door, put my hand up, said, "Hi, I'm Bambi Cantrell. I'm here to talk to you about photographing for you." He hired me right on the spot, but how could he not? I told him I'd do it for free. I'm not kidding. This is the absolute truth. So I worked for him for a year without pay. But I will tell you, a year without pay.
Wow.
But that was the best year because here's what I learned. I learned what not to do. I learned the shortcuts that you don't necessarily learn in a school, a photographic school. I learned how to MacGyver things in such a way that I could get my job done. And I learned people skills like nobody's business. To give you an example, the gentleman who I got my start in, I just love him to this day. But I'll never forget, him and I were photographing a wedding. And it was for an ex-football player for the 49ers or something like that. And this was back in the day when you did not, as a photographer, you didn't allow anybody else to take pictures, and you made a big fuss about it. So he walked up to this guy, this big football player, and he sticks his hand in his chest and says, "You can't take pictures. I'm hired to do that." And the guy turned around, grabbed him by the tie, lifted him up off the floor. And that's when I made mental note. I said, "Note to self, we are not going down that path. It is not worth it." Seriously. So I worked for him for about, I don't know, 5 years or so. Ended up getting paid to do my job. And then I decided to start my own company. And I will tell you, here's why I started my own business. I've never wanted to own my own business. Don't care about that. It's so not important to me. Today, if somebody wants to hire me, I can be bought for a price, but it is a hefty one. So, because I just I didn't want all that nonsense that goes along with owning your own business. So I went into him one day and I said, "I'd like to have a raise." I was making $200 to shoot a whole wedding. And I wanted him to pay me $225 to shoot a wedding. And it was like an all-day event. And he wouldn't do it. And so I thought, okay, $25 is holding, that's the difference, huh? And so I very reluctantly started my own business. And that's when I literally had the fast track to Nowheresville. Because I thought that to begin with, that if I was the cheapest photographer around, that people would step all over themselves to hire me. And so here's what happened. So my first bridal fair came, and I have to this day, I really enjoy bridal fairs. I like them. I like the competitive spirit of them. I show up, I have my little portfolio. Photographs are exposed properly, but nothing exciting or anything like that. And I was so cheap, I could afford to hire myself.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that that's not why people hire somebody to photograph their wedding, that there are other factors in it. And I literally about starved to death. I was so cheap because I could pay for myself that I was literally paying the client for the privilege of photographing their wedding. It was stupid.
Wow.
So then I thought, okay, I need to regroup. And you can stop me anytime, but this is really why I am who I am today. But this is the time that really changed my life. So after photographing a wedding at the Elks Lodge in Walnut Creek, a really very, very low budget wedding, it was boiling hot, no air conditioning, sweat's pouring down my back. I am being killed by this client that it's just very, very hard to do. I sat in my car and I said to myself, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to do to get the higher end wedding? Why am I stuck in a low budget wedding and photographing these that are just so hard? And you can photograph a wedding if it's in a lower budget wedding, and you can work yourself to the bone, but it will never have the appeal to the masses like a really fancy wedding. So that day I changed my life and I went shopping. Now that sounds stupid and girly, but let me tell you, it was the smartest thing I ever did, because here's why. Here's what I learned. At the time that I got my start in photography, it was very male dominated. It was very dominated by f-stops and shutter speeds. In other words, it was all nuts and bolts. And so when a client came to interview with you, you would say, well, I'm going to give you 32 5x5s and 12 8x10s in an album. And then the other photographer would say, well, I'm going to give you 42 8x10s and 6 5x5s or whatever. And that was the mentality of the genre at that time. And then I went, but if it were my wedding, what if you don't like any of the pictures?
Yeah.
Then it honestly doesn't matter how many you give them, because they're all crappy, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, how does a company like Louis Vuitton or Chanel, how do they get people to spend, $5,000-8,000 on a purse? Louis Vuitton at the time, I mean, their handbags were like over $1,000 for canvas and leather. What is it that they're doing that I'm not doing? Because quite honestly, I'm thinking, I want to be the Louis Vuitton of and the Chanel of the photo world.
Yeah.
And so that was when I started studying the way that those companies marketed. That was hugely important to me, because what I learned is that it's not necessarily perfect photography, but it's interesting photography that made the difference. And if you looked at the ads in magazines, and I started becoming a hound of brides magazines. I collected every brides magazine there was, and I looked at the advertisements from like a Tiffany's and other companies, the higher end wedding gown companies. What did they do to attract somebody to their products? And they all did the same thing. It was lifestyle photography that was they made the people really look like they were having a good time, and the photographs were very interesting. They weren't necessarily technically good. I mean, from the photographic school, that universe, because you'd see blown out highlights and really dark shadows, but the photographs had mood and they were very interesting. And that's when I started changing the way that I photographed and the way that I was communicating, not only verbally, but with the printed material that I was doing. The next bridal fair that I did, this time very few people were doing black and white photography. My entire booth was black and white images.
I want to ask you, quick question. We'll get to that, but I want to ask you, this was around 85, right? 84, 85?
This was probably more like 89.
But before that, when you went to that meeting you had with the first gentleman that gave you a chance to do work for free, had he turned you down, do you think you would quit photography right then and there?
No.
Okay.
I would have just found a different path to it. Because here's why, and that's such a good question. Here's why I know I would have pursued photography still. Because if I had the courage to go in there and have him turn me down, then I'd say, well, you know what? That's just one person. I'll find somebody else. I can make it happen. And because I have always been very resourceful, and I really like a challenge. I'm not afraid of no. these days specifically, I really enjoy the no, because the
What?
no only tells you that there's another way to get around.
Yeah, I mean, you're a go-getter for sure. I mean, you're out there kicking butt, and even till today, like today, that's amazing. What was your first camera ever?
My first camera was actually a Nikon F2,
Okay.
and I had, let's see, what was it? Was it a 105 1.4 lens? That it was amazing. My husband left it in a cab.
Oh,
Oh,
It was absolutely devastating. So then my next camera, the one that I used for weddings back in the day, I started with a Mamiya C330 twin lens camera, and then I graduated to the Hasselblad. And so back in the day, man, I'm telling you, you really had to eat your Wheaties to be able to carry gear around for a
oh
wedding.
yeah, and you back in the day with the film, because I've owned a C220, C330,
Uh-huh.
RB67, Hasselblad, C500. I've had a lot of film cameras. My first Nikon was an F3, but back in the day, you kind of had to know how to be a photographer. I
Yes, you
mean,
did.
you know what I mean? You had to know what you're doing because film, you had a limited shot. It cost money to process, and you
Yep.
didn't really want to waste clicks. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm very grateful. I feel very privileged that I came in the photography industry at that time. I feel that I've learned so many things about not being wasteful, about using my time efficiently, and not being sloppy, not being a sloppy photographer. Because today you can just spray and pray. Basically you don't have to have the skill of a gnat, to be able to get out there and just press that
Yeah,
shutter. And
yeah, but
then,
your editor is gonna hate you for that.
yes, that's right.
But first of all, I want to welcome everybody here streaming in. Manny Ortiz in the house. What's up, Manny? Good to see you here. Um, so that's great. That's amazing that your first camera was an Nikon. Now you
Yes.
flirted with Canon. I've seen your older videos
Hmm.
with the Canon 1D Mark IV and a white lens 7200, but now you're Nikon.
Hmm.
And
I I
how did
switched
that how did
I
that
switched
start?
over about, I want to say, maybe 15 years ago. I don't really even remember. Maybe it was 10 years ago. And actually I will tell you, I actually, when I first got my when I had my Hasselblad, I went actually looking for Nikon. But
Hmm.
at the time, um, um, it just, the people at the shows, they really weren't all that interested in talking to women about photography as much, and in the Nikon arena at that time. And just so I was like, okay, I stood around for a few minutes, and I, quite honestly, I was just a little bit annoyed that the guy just didn't give me the time of day to help me. And maybe it's my fault because I was kind of the village idiot at the time, technically speaking. And so I just kind of randomly went over to Canon and said, oh, that looks like a good camera. And I used it for a number of years. But the reason that I ended up going back to Nikon, one of my bones of contention from day one with the Canon, especially obviously the digital equipment is what I'm talking about, is that the color temperature right out of the can, I didn't like it. It was just too orange. It just didn't look good to me. It just, my own personal taste, it just wasn't, it just wasn't what I liked. And I've always had great respect for Nikon glass. So when I had the opportunity, I looked at the Nikon gear and I started, especially testing it out. I got a loaner camera from Nikon and said, I want to try this out. And immediately, the first thing I noticed was that I really liked the neutral color, the color right out of the can. It wasn't so exaggerated. And of course, you can color correct anything, but for me, time is money. And so that was one of the things that made me decide to work with Nikon. And by the time that I started working with, they were really embracing female photographers in a big way. And so I,
Yeah.
went to them and have never looked back.
Yeah, don't yeah, yeah, I mean, there was a big old army argument that cameras are just a tool, it's the photographer. Yeah, I agree with that. But it's your personal preference that, you stick with. Brandon says expression over perfection. Never forgot that statement from Bambi 15 years ago.
That's right, Brandon. And still my motto today. You cannot beat a good expression. Everything else is not important as that is. It's really very important.
So you go ahead, Chuck.
No, I was just I want to throw in there on the expression beats perfection or exceeds perfection or perfection. And that's one of my big arguments with a lot of people is we have tech togs and, pixel peepers and everybody else. I state this all the time. Do you like the photo or don't you? Don't criticize everything in the photo. Do you like it? And most of the clients love what you produce, and other photographers are the ones that will eat you alive on all the tech points. And you've brought that up many times in so many different seminars. And I love that. That's a true creative.
Yeah. And, I tell you what, that is so important to me because, I don't shoot for photographers. I shoot for clients.
Yes.
And that's my first thought. Do the client like it? Then you know what? Hey, I will take those greenbacks to the bank. It's just so much more important. Do I think it's important to get it right in the camera? Yes, I do. And that's one of the things I love about the equipment that I work with. The Nikon gear just makes my job so much easier because it is very sophisticated. It does grab the focus. That was, by the way, one of the other reasons that I switched to Nikon from the Canon is because I could not buy a focus with Canon equipment. I mean, I couldn't, it would just be just enough off that it would really bug me. And Nikon has always, to me, in my opinion, been produced sharper images.
Yeah. Albert says, "Oh yes, remembering the days when we had to carry a light meter around."
Oh yes, yes.
So, you're a Nikon ambassador.
Yes, I am.
And is that you've been a Nikon ambassador for how long now?
I want to say maybe 10 years.
So they looked you up and approached you, or you had to kind of work for it? How's that?
Well, I'm sure that I worked for it, but they approached me.
Okay.
And the way that they did it, I really appreciate it because they came to me and said, "Hey, Bambi, we'd like you to just try some of our equipment. Would you just put it through the paces and just tell us what you think?" And
awesome.
that was actually that's when I made the switch, quite honestly, from Canon to Nikon, because I thought, okay, I'm going to just put this through the paces and just see and compare, apples to apples. And when I finished testing, I tested them out for, I want to say 6 months. I said, I prefer the Nikon equipment. So it worked out very nicely. And then they eventually invited me to be part of the ambassador program. And I'm very grateful to that. I'm very honored to be an ambassador for Nikon.
What does that entail? Is it different things for different ambassadors, or do you have to kind of like go on shows with them and do the speaking engagements?
Shh. I'm sorry, I have my dog in the room.
That's okay.
Shh. Stormy, be quiet. Okay, what was your question? Sorry. About being an ambassador. What do you have to do?
Yeah, what does it entail? Like different duties or?
Basically, they like us to. They will invite us to participate at different trade shows, to speak on their platform. They basically want us to, to represent the Nikon brand in a very in an elegant way that really helps people to see that the equipment can do what we say it does. They're not the kind of company that is they don't let's see, how do I want to put this? They don't want us to be salespeople. I guess that's really the point that I'm trying to make. So I don't ever feel any pressure about having to sell something.
Yeah. Tom Tracy says, I read one of her books that I got from the West Palm Beach Library back in 2003. Wow. And used all her 35 millimeter special tricks here. And I'm still at shooting weddings and events.
Wow.
We got a question for you here. Question, Bambi. I see you have been through many cameras. Do you remember the most significant change in tech that helped your photography skills? Thanks, James.
Oh, do I ever? Okay, because I'm one of the old dogs, I was one of the first women in America to test digital cameras. And I have to tell you the story. It's so funny. But it to me is, I feel so privileged that I got to experience this. Back in the 90s, I want to say 94-ish, I was approached by a company to test a new digital camera. And it was, I want to say, for Foveon. They were the ones that produced the chip. And so they invited me to come to Germany to test this new technology. And I embraced it. I ran right to it because I thought, you know what, I'm not the smartest tool in the shed. So if I can get in first, it gives me a little bit more time to be able to adapt and get used to the technology. So anyway, so I go to Germany. I bring a model with me. We're at Photokina, the largest photo show in the world, and they bring me in this room, and they have this big piece of black velvet sitting, and there's something underneath it, and they're going to show me this new technology. And they whip off the black velvet. I have my model standing there, and there's a laptop computer with a lens rigged up on the front. It was the stupidest thing you've ever seen in your whole life. It had a 3-second capture. Do you know how long 3 seconds is? So the model would go interpose, and I'm like, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and then it would finally click. So, but here's why that I'm very grateful to that, and why that helped my photo skills. Well, because it made me recognize not to be afraid of change. It really made me appreciate that change is part of life, and to embrace it, and to jump right in there and just get comfortable with it. Within, I'd say, a year, there were digital cameras that were out there. The back for the Hasselblad. I actually shot a wedding with a Hasselblad with the back on the little digital back on it, and you were tethered to a laptop computer which you wore around your waist.
Wait, you had to tether that in order
Yes.
to use it?
Yes, you had to
Wow.
be tethered. So I'm shooting this wedding, and I've got a laptop computer and a belt around my waist with the screen like this, which is real hard to see whether you're in focus or not. And I shot 400 frames on that wedding, and it was hilarious. It was just
Oh,
the
wow.
funniest thing.
Never
So
heard of that.
yeah, it was crazy.
So
So
before the transition to mirrorless, because I'm assuming you shoot mirrorless now.
yes, I do
Right.
shoot mirrorless.
But before that, we'll get to that in a second. But you were shooting DSLR. What was when you switched to Nikon and all that things happened with ambassadorship? What was your favorite DSLR to shoot with at that time after the Canons?
Well, I started with the D4, and I liked it very much, and just kept moving up the food chain. And to this day, I still have a D850, which I love my D850. I really enjoy it very much. So the thing that I love about the Z9, it actually feels more like the D4. It's a heavier camera, and I actually prefer that heavier body. It just makes me feel, it just is more stable to me. I don't even know, I can't even put it into words what I like about it, but it's more to me the traditional camera. It reminds me more of the traditional camera of the past.
So D8, you still have the D850,
Mm-hmm.
and you love that.
Yes.
And now you have a Z9.
Yes.
Oh, nice, nice. And did you have a Z6, Z7 before that? Or?
I did. I started out with I tested the Z6 for Nikon, and did a photo shoot for them. And I have to say, for someone looking for an entry-level camera, I think the Z6 is an awesome little camera for weddings. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just it's a pretty darn good tool. I really like it. And then I moved on to the Z7. The Z9 though is just, to me, a beast. If you photograph lots of weddings and you want that solid piece of equipment that is going to give you it every time, especially for weddings, to me, in low light situations. I mean, literally the darn thing focuses in the dark. It really just surprises me. I was shooting in Florida recently in January, and I had and I was photographing outside, and they had sparklers, and it was literally dark. It was just the moon out. And I was actually surprised to see how much, what I was able to get, and how quickly that the camera grabbed a focus. It was just phenomenal.
That's awesome. Chuck, feel free to cut me off.
We lost your audio, Bambi.
Oh,
No, we have
There
it.
it is. There it
We
is.
have it.
I'm sorry. I don't know what
We
my
have it.
end. I lost it for a second. No, just listen to you talk about how you got started. I know there were a lot of comments by the folks in the chat. It's very informative for anybody that's looking at maybe jumping over to being a paid photographer rather than just shooting, bits and pieces here and there. Also, the talking about back in the day, somebody brought up how then shooting free was the only way to get free learning. So nowadays, everybody looks at that or looks down their nose at you if you say you're just shooting free at the moment. But I guess that was the easiest form of education in photography back then. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, it probably was, but I have to tell you, I am not from the school of photographing free, period. I do not think you should now. I mean, obviously I did in the very beginning of my career, but I wasn't shooting. I was assisting for free. There's a big difference. And the reason I was assisting was that I am really good if I see something done. I can pick it up just like that. But I cannot learn from a book. It's just very difficult for me to learn from something that's a written page.
Yes.
And so for me, when I started with my my old boss many years ago, I just made myself valuable. I just said, if he told me to jump, I said, how high? And I carried his equipment. I schlepped his junk. But the good thing about that was he opened the floodgates to me, and he taught me many things that sometimes people don't like to teach you because they're afraid you're going to steal their business. And I just made myself so valuable to him that he could not picture himself photographing without my help. And then I was able to learn everything I needed to without any pressure and without having to ruin my own personal name because I screwed it up and didn't do a very good job. So today I would tell people that if they really want to learn their craft and they have a hard time learning from a book, today there's so many things that they can do. They can take classes. There's WPPI is still the premier organization, in my opinion, for learning our craft. I absolutely would not be where I'm at if it had not been the education I got from WPPI. But also there's organizations like Creative Live out there that do phenomenal jobs. What you guys are doing is great too, at really helping people to learn technique. But I still don't think there's anything like assisting somebody to do their job. But when you're assisting, you just shut up and listen and you do what they tell you to do. And you do not say, well, I would do it this way, or can I shoot? No, I want you to just sit in the back of the room right there, or, grab my gear. In your mind, what I'm looking for is somebody that would go, okay, what does she need next? What tool is she going to want? So that you become valuable. And if that's the case, then you become somebody that they want to have you around, and then they'll teach you everything that you need to know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Back on that, Chuck, you wanted to say something on this topic?
Yeah, I know that you've always talked about shooting your worth, and you did a Creative Live on that as well. Vahagan had he did a video not long ago talking about inflation, why everything else goes up, but everybody balks at photographers wanting to raise their prices. Do you feel that way? Is there something? I mean, is that the case?
Well, I do believe that photography is not viewed like it was back in the day. Back in the day, people had real appreciation for the skill that it took to become a photographer. I mean, they couldn't work with a Hasselblad. They couldn't do this or that. So if people wanted good photographs, they knew that they were going to have to pay a good amount to hire a very skilled professional. And so I think that today it does take more, it takes more creativity to really to get to be able to command the dollars that you get. But I do think that there are some things that people can do today to really to improve their image and to be able to command a higher dollar. It's not how much you charge, it's what you get to keep that matters. And so many times I hear photographers, they're like, oh no, I'm not going to give them their digital files and blah, blah, blah. They become so worked up over that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, if you photograph for an hour and you make $1,000 and you literally have to do nothing, who do you know that makes $1,000 an hour?
Right.
And I mean, I know that that's going to make some people unhappy. And I'm not saying that, that everybody has to do it that way, but I'm just saying, be realistic and say, okay, well, okay, if you want to make more money as a photographer, think about what is it that's costing you? What is it costing you to do business? And that's really where I feel that I've had a PhD in photography, is looking at companies like, again, going back to Louis Vuitton. Well, why are they still in business? Why do people still value their product? And do you know how much a used Louis Vuitton handbag is now? Just a simple used Louis Vuitton that you drug around for a year and a half. Maybe your wife bought it and then she said, okay, maybe I'll get a new one, right?
Yeah,
It's still over
yeah.
$1,000 for that product. Why? It's because of brand recognition, and that brand is something very, very special. It becomes very special. And so I'm a firm believer in making the things that you provide for people look very special. Everything from the albums that you use. If you provide albums, I do provide albums for my clients. I want them to buy into that this is history, that we are recording family history, and we're the historians. And so I include albums in what I charge, but I charge a lot to photograph an event, for instance, for a wedding. So here's how I go about figuring out what's going to cost me. I think to myself, okay, how much does it cost me to get out of bed on a Saturday morning? I'm talking about weddings, when I have the flu, or when I'm sick, rather. If I'm feeling really, really bad, or I've had a tough night, or I'm going to miss my child's soccer game and it's like they're the biggest game of the year. Then I'm going to think, okay, not that, and I hate this, I don't want to sound like money's more important than people, but if you've committed to do something, you better make it so that it's a good experience, that at least it makes it palatable for you. So, and then I figured out what it costs me actually to do the job, to do it the way I want to do it. I want to hire an assistant, a qualified assistant, someone who can help me. The books, I want that included in my price, and anything that goes along with it, including editing. And then I roll that all together, and then I will put a fee on top of that. And then that becomes what I charge to do the job, so that in the mind of the client, if they're paying, let's say they're paying $30,000 for me to photograph their event, then that's what it costs for the albums are, that's what their products are costing. It's not the products are costing, $10,000, and then that's what her profit is X amount. I don't think that's anybody's business what your profit is.
Yeah.
If a girl buys a wedding gown, she doesn't walk into that bridal salon and go, okay, well, the fabric was, $10 a yard, blah, blah, blah. You pay a certain amount, and that's for the product.
The problem is, us photographers have a tendency of breaking things down for the client, and I think that's a bad habit.
I agree.
You
It
know,
is.
'cause
I think it's.
we don't want to lose the business. They ask us a direct question sometimes, and they feel the need to find out what our costs are. Do you go into the doctor's office and ask them how much, what things cost over there? No, you pay the
Right.
premium, and.
Boris has an interesting thought here. He says, why pay a photographer when you have a friend with an iPhone? Here's why. If your pictures don't look any better than an iPhone picture, then you know what? I'd get somebody with an iPhone too. So I really think that you have to be willing to find a way for your imagery. Your imagery has to be emotion invoking. And that's the difference. Is that, because quite honestly, could I do a wedding with an iPhone? Let's face it, the cameras are really good. Would it be what I can do with my tools, my fabulous tools that I use, Nikon? It's not going to be the same. I have a variety of lenses that I can use, but it's more about the skill that's in here and in here.
Well, it's the years of you creating and coming up with the ideas and things like that. And I think that's what people they seek you out for that. They look at your portfolio. So you're right. And you should be paid for that. I agree.
The other thing too, though, is if you're doing the same kind of photography that everybody else is doing, well, heck, hire the cheapest guy out there then, because
Right.
it's all the same. And, that's sometimes photographers work very hard to copy other photographers. They'll take a seminar and, okay, they'll become the next Jerry Guionis or the next Yervant, and they'll go, okay, I'm going to copy and copy and copy this, and then I'll do the job for less. Well, the thing is if you're just doing, a poor imitation of your Vaunt, that's still a poor imitation. You can't expect to get your Vaunt pricing at what you're charging. So
Yeah, I love Yervon. I mean, I've had him on. I've had Jerry Guiones, Cliff Montner, and all these guys. Vanessa Joy, and But I just wanted to ask you a quick question about. Well, first of all, you have a lot. You're a big influence. Like, look, Gray Heat, Bambi. You were responsible for getting me into photography. Inspired me to get into weddings
aw.
from Trinidad. So that's cool. So back on the Z9. So as
Hang on a
a
second.
Sure.
Can you take them out? Okay.
uh as
Yeah, you said the
back on
Z9.
the Z9, yeah. When you're shooting portraits, weddings, uh what's your go-to focus mode?
Oh, let's see. What is my go-to? I do like autofocus. I usually use the smaller. I don't like the wide gamut of focusing. I just find that a little distracting. So I personally prefer. I know what my focus is going to be. I use the center square generally. I find that to me just is. It's just because of the way I've shot for 150 years, and then so I focus, lock it, and then I recompose.
So you still use the single point.
Yeah.
You don't go for the auto eye detect and all that.
No, I do like the eye tag, but I will tell you it's because I'm getting used to it because I'm an old school girl where, you've had to, this is
Focus
what
and
I've always
recompose.
done. So, but that I will tell you that eye tag is great. It is really, really good. And,
Did you
but it is
have you
something for me to get used to personally.
updated your firmware yet on your Z9?
Yes.
You use the new features there? Are you shooting at 120 frames per second? No, I'm kidding.
No, no, I don't think I ever will probably. Well, who knows whether I'll shoot that way or not, but you know what it is? I'm very methodical in the way that I photograph. I'm not one I'm not trigger happy ever. So very seldom am I going to be photographing, like a machine gun where I'm just like,
Yeah, yeah.
I just,
That was a joke.
yeah, I know, but
But
I'm not that type of photographer. So.
what is James asked, what is your favorite go-to wedding lens for candid shots?
Oh, good question. I'd have to say probably it depends on what I'm photographing. I would say if I want to be like a more photojournalistic and I want to kind of just be a little bit away from my subject, then I would say the 70 to 200 2.8 would be my go-to. If I'm wanting candids of people like out on the dance floor, then I'm going to use the 24 to 70.
You mean you're not
And
one of those photographers that just slaps a 50 on and the whole day? And I'm kidding.
no, don't do it the whole day. But I do have a variety of lenses, and I find that there are certain ones that just speak to me at certain moments. My favorite lenses, my very favorite lens is the 70-200 2.8. That to me is always in my bag. I love the 105. Is it 1.2 or 1.4? I can't remember off the top
The
of my head.
105-1.4.
I love that lens. And then I also have the 85 and
The G.
yeah. So I really like a variety of different lenses. I have a 24-1.4 that I like, but I kind of it's one of those lenses. I'm not necessarily a wide angle girl as much as I'm more intimate. So I prefer longer lenses over shorter.
Tom Tracy, how's photojournalism fared? Wedding photojournalism label. How has that fared? I think it's a combination of both, right? Portraits and candids, photojournalism.
I think that the real and I've worked with the best photojournalists in the world. To me, Dennis Reggie is he is the premier photojournalist in the world. And one of the things that I've appreciated about him, of course, he does formal pictures. He just doesn't take all day to do them. And most of the work that he does is very quiet and it's very it's very let's see, what is the word I'm trying to use? Unmanipulated. So when the time comes and there's a time for doing formal, sometimes after the ceremony or before the wedding, he'll do formal pictures of a bride or bride and groom and so forth, but he just doesn't spend all day doing it. It's more, we'll do these few things. He does a few and then he backs off and goes back to doing things that are less manipulated. And I love that kind of photography.
Yeah.
I have to say that's more my bend than being just strictly everything posed. I find that a little bit too, I find that a bit exhausting for the client. I remember I had a very famous photographer assist me on a wedding one time. And I've had a number of opportunities in the past to do that. And this individual really likes to manipulate every scene. And that is very exhausting for clients at times. And especially if that's not why they're hiring you. So, if that's what your clients are requesting and that's what they want, then great, go have at it and, put them in every kung fu pose you can. But there are times when it's not necessarily, the right thing, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, and clients sometimes don't want to be posed. They just want you to capture moments. But I think that as a photographer, I like to have a combination of both just because, some people, you don't feel good as a photographer when you go out there and you don't have your shots in.
Yeah.
There's so much candid and photojournalism you could do. Ronald Pollard, what's up, bro? He says, wonderful response, Bambi. We as pros need high quality and unique imaging in order to offer a pro experience. Yeah, and very true. So mirrorless EVF versus OVF. Did you adapt to it well? I know I had some trouble because I
What
was so
trouble
used
did
to
you
it.
have?
Which one now?
Which trouble did you have adapting?
Okay, this is the way I liked it. No, the Z9, they made it better, but this is the way I see it sometimes when I just started with the Z6, going from a D4 G50, and I still have these DSLRs and I still use them. But so it's like looking out your window or looking at a TV outside, like you know what I mean? Like when you look out the window, it's like crystal clear, but when you look at a TV from your front yard, it's that. But the Z9, the EVF on the Z9 is great, much improved. So
I really didn't experience problems with the Z6, Z7, but there is no question that the Z9 has so many, to me, there are so many wonderful features to it. One of my favorite things about the Z9 is also the speed of upload. In addition to the fact that it grabs the focus in the dark, and it is very, very fast. It's quiet. It's very, very quiet. But the other thing that I really like is the fact that, boy, those files upload super quick. So, I mean, there's just so many things to like about it. I really can't even express how much I like it.
do you shoot RAW or JPEG?
Always raw.
Always RAW. Okay, all right.
And the reason I do is because to me, it's like being able to develop a picture as many times as you want to. With Ansel Adams, when he created the zone system, he had to, take that image and then he would process it and for what he was looking for. But you'd get one shot to do that. When you had film process, you could process it and then, according to what your particular needs were. But now with RAW, you can process it today one way and process it another. And sometimes I'll process a file 2 or 3 times so I can pull up the background a bit and so forth.
Nilo says, problem with the EVF has always been flickering, but I think now with the new one, it's like much improved. I had that issue too, with there's a little bit of a delay there, so yeah, Z9 is great. And
can I show you I mean, I don't know if you have a particular place that you want to go, but I'd love to show those that are in attendance just a little bit about a photo shoot that I just did like a week and a half ago.
Sure, let's do it.
And that way I can kind of walk you through kind of what's my mindset. Okay. Sure. And let's see.
That's awesome.
Can you make, or do I have to make that bigger?
I think, Chuck, do you see it?
Yeah.
You control your screen. I think your computer screen.
Okay, hold on. I've got to. Okay, here.
I love your portrait work, Bambi.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you see that better? Good.
I think you have to go into your desktop. Is this your desktop?
Yeah. Here we go.
So is
How
it
about that? Can you
frozen?
see that all right?
Chuck, is it moving or is just
No.
Yeah, now you
oh,
can see
there
it.
it is. There it is.
Yeah.
You just
Okay.
changed an image.
I'm going to show you this event. I shot this about a week ago. And one of the reasons that the things that go through my mind when I'm photographing, even before the session happens, I try to give myself personal assignments. I was actually taking my granddaughter to one of her dance classes, and this little girl was in her class. And when I saw her, she has these amazing little freckles. Let me see if I can get close up and show you her freckles. I mean, she just has this little face that was just adorable. And
Oh
she'd
yeah.
lost one of her teeth, one of her front teeth. So I was like, oh my goodness, that's like I have died and gone to heaven. And so I asked the mom if I could photograph her. So I hired a makeup artist to come in, and I didn't want her to look like a movie star, but I wanted her to look like just this messy little kid, and to give her, just this. I wanted her to have this little kind of a crazy look about her. So I had him put her hair in pigtails, and but make it kind of on the messy side. And I put her in some stockings that I purchased, and then I cut holes in them so that it would be a bit less. I didn't want it to be a perfect photo shoot. One of the things that I try to do, I like working with the natural light in a space. This is at my friend Brady Thomas's studio in Benicia, and the only light source is just a window, and then I'm using a large silver reflector on just off camera to the right to just fill in just a little bit on the left-hand side of her, so that I get my highlights coming from the window. You get highlights here, and then you get shadows there, a highlight, and then a bit more shadow, a highlight on that hair, a bit of shadow, and then a highlight behind the head. And those kinds of things help me to be able to have dimensionality. It gives my image a bit more dimensionality. One of the things that I try to do is I feel that it's really important to play with your subject. And so I'm always, I start out by having them jump around a bit, like I showed you, a little earlier. Yeah, here. This little kid, I just had her jumping around. Now you'll notice that she's got like newspapers around the waist. And basically what I did, by the way, you know how hard it is to find newspaper these days? It's super hard. Nobody has them anymore. So basically I got a tube top, or a little a leotard from Target for $5. And then I had to spend $7 on the newspapers because I had to go to a liquor store to get them, and they had them. So anyway, very few people have them anymore. So basically I just tape them around her waist. And this is the way that I start getting the client comfortable, is I want her jumping around and just playing. Just give her something to do to play, so that she forgets about the camera, that she doesn't feel like that it's a boring experience. Because if it's a boring experience, then she's not going to enjoy it. And if she doesn't enjoy it, then it's not going to be something that she's going to want to participate in. This personally is my very favorite image I shot so
nice.
far. And I really, really like this. And again, this is just shot with natural light, the light coming in from the window, and then just off camera on the left hand, on the right hand side is a very large reflector, a silver reflector, just angled enough to give me a little tiny bit of separation here. And you'll notice that the hallway is not completely black. There's a highlight here, and there's a little highlight here as well. And this is where I might go in and process a file more than one time, so that I can process it for the highlights, because I don't want the highlights on her face blown out. I want them, I want to keep those highlights down. And then it'll also give me the opportunity to pull up the shadow areas a bit, so that I can give an image a bit more dimensionality. And so this one has, like, I think I did 100, there's 100 images in here. And but I will tell you, generally, I don't shoot that much. But in this case, I'm going to tell you, I couldn't help myself. She was just so darn cute. And get this, the day before we did her session, she lost her second front tooth. And I was like, just drop the mic now. I could not be more excited about it. So pretty much I try to, I look for things where I can tell a story. So I
Love
like
it.
photographing through buildings and through windows and such. I'll have the family bring in a prop if they have anything. I said, bring in, something that has meaning to your child or your family.
I
And
love the tone in this shot. It's
thank
really
you.
nice.
And this one I have manipulated a bit in post. Let's see if I can show you where I did.
Quick question on the just quick question. When you're shooting raw, do you and what picture profile? I mean, it's raw, obviously, but real quick question: what picture profile do you prefer on the Nikon Z9?
The standard.
Okay, standard.
Yeah, just what I've become comfortable with. I like doing any of the things that I'm going to do. I like doing them in post. And I think, let me see if I can pull this up in, let's see, Photoshop, and I'll show you what the whole file looks like. Let's see if I can do it.
What a fantastic little model you have there. Her expressions are just fantastic.
Oh my goodness, I'm not joking you. I literally giggled through this entire session. Now, can you see my screen still?
I see
Yes.
I see her with the teddy bear. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to click off each of the layers. Can you see the layer palette that I have up?
Oh no, we don't see the Photoshop up.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's see.
I love that image. I love how sharp it is through the window.
Can you see it now?
We see a black screen.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Hang on a second here. I am trying to figure out how to do that part.
Yeah. Well, no.
Okay, so I guess I'm not going to be able to show that to
Okay,
you.
so it did flicker there. It looked like you skipped through a layer.
Yes.
So I think we can see the layer. We can't see the layer palette, but we can see it
No,
change.
this is
Oh,
Lightroom.
great. Okay, gotcha. No, I'm in. Okay, but you should be able to see what's on my desktop.
No, we just see black. Now.
Okay.
You,
Hang on a minute here. I just won't be able to show you the palette. Any rate, there's, you know what I could do? Let me see if I can do it this way. Oh, duh. Here we go. Now you can see these are the different layers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tone's changed.
Wait. This is my, this is the actual raw image. And then this is what I did to manipulate it. You notice I didn't really straighten out the horizon lines. I just didn't really feel like I needed to do that. And I did get rid of this. This line was bugging me, this lighter tone.
right.
So I think I just cropped it out. Yeah, I did crop it out. And then you notice I didn't clean it up too much. Like you see, you can still see the little spots in here. I don't know if you can see it clearly or not, but I don't like to make it too perfect because it is through a window. I don't want to, make it like, like it's just, clear as clear. So at any rate, that's one session. And then I want to show you one other. Let's see if I can, let's see.
Yeah, this is great. Would you consider yourself more of a portrait photographer or wedding photographer?
I would say I am both.
Okay.
I think, is it Harrison? I think it's this one. Let's see. Yeah, I'd have to say both. And the reason is that to me, weddings there's portraits that go into weddings. So I kind of think that it's all part of the same ball of wax.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah, I'll show you this one. Can you see it?
No, I think you clicked out of the sharing screen.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second here.
That's
I think you
okay. Everybody's enjoying it.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Share. Okay, I'm going to share my window. Got it. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. Now, the reason I'm showing you this session, there's like 10 images in here. What I want you to see, this is actually the same environment that I photographed that little girl in.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want you to see in this is that sometimes when I'm photographing, sometimes people think you have to have all kinds of stuff to be able to get good images. I don't believe that. As long as I have a good camera and a good lens I can go anywhere. Everything else is secondary to me. That's my tool. If I'm going to spend money, I'm going to spend money on those. Those two things are going to be what I spend my dollars on. I won't spend it on props and stuff like that, because I prefer to MacGyver things. Like this gown, this designer gown that she's wearing is actually nothing more than a piece of fabric. It's literally one long sheet of fabric, and around her neck, all I did was I use thin wire that I get at like Michael's craft store. It's got to be super thin, because then I can basically just pull it through the material without damaging the material. And then I tie it around the neck. I put that wire on both sides and then drape it in the front, and then pull it tight around the hips here, and then create a garment, because it only has to look good from the front. So, and even if it does look good from the back, let's see if I have a picture of the back. I don't think I have one of the back. But as long as I'm closing it up in the back enough where you're not seeing, something we don't want to see. Let's see if you can see it. Yeah. I can't show you the back of it, but these are the kind of things that if you just kind of understand a little bit of how fabric drapes, you can really create some very fun things. And this is like my very favorite thing to do these days. I just absolutely love it. And I like it because, let's see, I'm going to stop sharing. So give me a second here. Got it. I'm always one of those people who, I just want to try to make it a worthwhile investment. And I want it to be part of the experience that the client has. That little girl that was wearing that newspaper around her waist. The reason for that was twofold. Number one, I wanted to photograph it. I thought it would look kind of fun. But more important than that is the experience that she has. I want her to see that something's fun happening with her, and that it becomes something that she buys into the experience. And then if the client buys into the experience, we're home free. We're all going to have a great time.
That's cool. So you talk to us about natural light, great work. But talk to us about lighting, flashes, your strobes, and
I do use ProPhoto. I have a D4 kit and a D2 kit. The D2 kit is great for if I want to be out on location and I want some studio lighting. And one of the things I like about ProPhoto, and I'm always a believer in spending money on the good stuff. I don't buy cheap lights. I just buy it once and then I'm done. It's literally one and done. And that's the way I feel about cameras as well. So the D2 kit is not one of the least expensive setups that you can purchase, but I like it because it's very reliable, and it doesn't, it gives me longevity. And it's one of those things that I know I'm going to turn it on, plug it in, and it's going to be ready to roll. I have had very, very few problems with any of my lighting equipment. My D4 is a studio setup. I can't tell you that I know the technical names of the light modifiers that I use. I use the big one that looks like a satellite dish. And so
that's what I love about you, though. You're not worried about that side of everything. You're more concerned with just creating.
So I do like larger light sources versus smaller light sources. And so give me a large open window. As I mentioned, I really kind of like to MacGyver things, which means that, so you give me a wall and a window, I'm home free. Like for instance, in my office here, the main light's coming from this large window over here. But look at the quality of the light that's on my face. Now, if I photograph the subject, if my subject is sitting here and I photograph on this side of my face, that's called short lighting. So I can make that individual's face look more narrow. If I want to photograph on this side of the face, then I'm going to make that subject look broader or wider. So you can really sculpt the face, sculpt the body of your individual by the way that you light them, or the way that you turn the body in relation to the light source. So turning the face, away from the light, then of course is going to give you make that person look more narrow, and also I think makes them look more curvaceous.
Yeah. You prefer umbrellas, big soft boxes? I like
both. I would use them for different things. I like a beauty dish. I like soft boxes a lot. To me, soft boxes are probably what I use more than anything. But I also use umbrellas too.
Hmm. At events, what is your main speed light on your camera at a wedding reception?
For reception, it's going to be I use the Nikon Speedlight. What is it? The
910 or
yeah,
900.
yeah, the 910.
Interesting. So this is great. Question, because me
The
and
way
Chuck
that I
never.
use, hang on real quick, just want to clarify something. When I'm
Sure.
using a speed light, I don't, you know how you have like the speed light is like this and the head's coming out this way. That's not how I use a speed light. I turn it around to about here and I use it I bounce it off the walls. If the walls are a light tone color wall, then I'll bounce it. And this to me is where the equipment really matters, especially if it's real efficient. Bouncing it off a wall, I can get a beautiful softbox light with very little effort from a speed light.
Hmm. Yeah, I use that technique too. Is there any truth to the rumor that Nikon is working with Profoto in the future, or?
I'm the last person to know. And if I did
Okay.
know, I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, because they're not in development of any new speed lights. Oh,
mhm,
the last one they had was the 5000,
right.
and that's it. But yeah, I would like to know that. I heard a rumor going around with Profoto, right, Chuck?
Yes. Well, Nikon stated they'd be working with Profoto. That's it, though.
Yeah. So,
Well, they
uh,
certainly align themselves with a wonderful company because, those two would be my top two tiers. It's like very, very the best of the best.
do you ever like experiment with different type of photography that I guess what I'm trying to say is there photography that you want to go out and do that you haven't done yet?
Oh.
Like a genre, birding, sports, or
Well, but the funny thing is that it's to me, it's all part of the same thing. Um,
Mm.
I will tell you what is the most difficult for me to do. I can't say I mean, I've done some sports. I've done, not birding per se, but I've, done photographed animals and such. But I will tell you the hardest thing for me to do is to do landscape photography. You know
landscape?
why?
Yeah.
It's because there's no way to interact with my subject. In other words, anything that has a beating heart, I get it. I mean, I can anticipate the action, but for me, photographing landscape, of this beautiful quiet scene is so hard for me to do because there's no one that I can bounce off of, like and chatter with. But I will tell you, it's one of the things that I enjoy the most. I really, really love that kind of photography very much so. And I try to do, landscape and those kinds of, um, urban photography. Like I have a line of greeting cards that I do, and this is one of the pictures from my greeting cards right here.
Nice.
So
Do you
I really enjoy that. So I make a special point of going out and doing pictures of, landscapes and stuff like that.
where was the you're based in the Bay Silicon Valley, right? Where the tech companies are.
Yes.
Where was your favorite? You have a favorite spot to photograph? Like you've been in the world,
Yes.
around the world?
Oh, around the world. Yes. I can tell you exactly where it is. Iceland. My
Okay.
very that was a life-changing experience for me. Iceland, I was an ambassador or an icon of imaging for Microsoft for a period of time, and they invited us to go to Iceland. And I have to tell you, when they invited me to go, I didn't want to go. I was like, Iceland? Who goes to Iceland? It's like it's cold. There's no people there, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do in Iceland? But I'm going to tell you that was an absolute life-changing experience for me because first of all, it made me face my fears. It made me use the tools and the skills that I have as a wedding portrait photographer, but in a completely different way. So that I came back, I shot quite a bit of landscape photography that I still use to this day. And also I photographed all the horses in Iceland. I mean, I think I photographed every one of them. The
Nice.
Icelandic ponies. It was truly a life-changing experience. It's my very favorite place I've ever been.
Nice. Yeah, you say horses. It reminds me of a. Have you heard of Zara Mod in Canada? She's a
Uh-huh.
Nikon ambassador. She has these horse portraits. So really nice. Your camera bag consists of how many bodies and lenses? You have backups?
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. I have two bodies at this time. I have the Z9 and then the D850. I
Ah,
have a bunch of lenses. Let's see what have I got in my bag here. Oh,
you're like me,
here's my
hybrid shooter.
oh yeah. Um 24 to 70, my bread and butter lens. This is the D850. And I keep my equipment in very good working order. I really work hard keep it um to keep it working really well. Let's see. This one is the 105-14.
Oh yeah.
And
Wow, what a good condition. That
oh
thing
yeah,
looks brand new.
yes, I'm very, very careful with my equipment. I mean, I use it all the time, but I really believe in taking good care of my stuff. And I do. I take very good care of it. Let's see what else I have over here. I gotta look and see. Not all my lenses are in my bag.
Yeah. Hello, A Frizzle.
Okay.
Tom, Tracy, Boris.
Then 85-14.
Yeah.
And then this is my newest lens, and it is the 105 macro.
You still have the G lens.
Yes, I do.
You should hit up Nikon. Say, hey, I'm ambassador. Send me that S lens.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is I got to tell you, I like to use what I use, and I'm not one for a lot of change. So I don't always just have to feel like I have to have the latest and the greatest. If it works, and in fact, I will tell you that's one of the things that I loved about Nikon. And one of the things that motivated me to switch, and here was what it was. Um, it really bugged me that every time Canon came out with a new body, you'd have to buy new lenses. I just really found that annoying. And the one thing I love about the Nikon gear is that obviously with the Z, they have the new Z lenses, but even that it's adaptable to, using the older lenses. But Nikon specifically had those old lenses that maybe were 20 years old, you could still use on your Nikon bodies. So I just really I like things that have multi-use.
Right here. The 400f 2.8 with the Z9.
Yeah.
Fully adaptable. Love this lens.
Yeah, I do too.
So yeah, I just did a video on this lens.
Have you shot any of your F mount lenses with the FTZ on your Z9?
Are you asking?
I'm asking you, Bambi, have you shot any of the legacy lenses with the FTZ adapter on your Z9?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Nice.
In fact, there's stuff that let's see, I'm trying to think, what did I shoot this past week? The little girl. Some of those were shot with some of the other lenses.
You have the 7200 Z, right?
Yes, but I also have a 70-200 2.8
VR.
Yeah, VR.
But so tell me the differences between the two real quickly, like because you have both.
Well,
sharper.
You know what? I don't know yet, to be honest. I just literally the Z lens is on loan to me because I've been using my lenses, my regular lenses with the mount, with the extra mount, and I thought, well, I want to see what the difference is in the weight, and so I really can't address that yet.
Oh, we have a question.
Uh-huh.
James, are you able to describe a Nikon camera or lens feature that you just don't like?
Gosh, no, I can't. There's only one thing that does bug me, and that is the fact that sometimes they move the buttons into different spots. With the different camera bodies, like the Z buttons are in a different spot. Some of the buttons on the back are in a different spot than they are on my D850. So I have to go, okay, wait a minute, where am I at here?
Do you mind if we take a couple of phone calls?
Sure.
Let me open up the hotline real quick. 1 second. Let's see if we have a question for Bambi. Here's a time to call, guys. Let me put up the number here. There it is. There's a number, guys. So if you want to talk to Bambi Cantrell live, go for it. Give us a call, and we'll take your questions right on air. So I wanted to ask you real quick while we're waiting for a phone call. What's as far as the industry versus back then? Do you think it's at a good place? The photography industry, as far as client making a living, not the camera industry.
That's a very good question. It has certainly changed. But I think there's always going to be a need for documenting family history and such. And there's going to be a need for professionals. You know, the difference between someone with an iPhone or a pro phone, a pro camera, sometimes is the ability to anticipate what's going to happen. And I do think that it is more challenging. The times are more challenging, but not necessarily because of the cameras. I think that that is a factor, but I think that the threshold of what a client will accept has been reduced. You know, nowadays it's like all you have to, you know, because there are all those, you know, the little selfies are everywhere. There's just so much of the self photography, not being in the moment anymore. And I think that's, to me, if there's a downside, it's the fact that people that are being photographed, they're not in the moment allowing themselves to be photographed anymore. It's more like, well, I'll just do selfies of me and my, you know, husband or my boyfriend or whatever. Yeah. And I don't know. I'm always a glass half full kind of person. So I always feel like there's going to be a need for a good professional photography, but I do think you have to work smarter, and you have to work a bit harder to get noticed.
Yeah. I think we have a phone call, Chuck.
Yes, we do. Bambi, this is Ronald Pollard, another working Nikon professional. Go ahead, Ronald.
Hey, hi, Bambi. How are you today?
I'm good.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I love what you're saying. And as a longtime Nikon user from the age of like 8 or 9, I love it. I love the gear. What I wanted to ask you was this, and if it's a little noisy, it's because I'm driving to an appointment. Do you believe, where do you see Nikon being positioned in the market right now, Bambi? Do you see Nikon poised for continued growth? Do you see Nikon poised to grow more amongst younger users? And I ask that because I'm in my 50s and I'm training my son, who's 26, on my Z6 II, and I've introduced him to video and photography through Nikon on my Z6 II. And I kind of wanted to know, and I know it's hard for you to speak on behalf of everything Nikon, but I just wanted your perspective on where do you believe Nikon is positioned and poised in the market? And do you see Nikon poised to grow amongst a younger generation? Thank you. I'll listen to that. I'll listen to your response. Thank you very much.
Well, I think that Nikon has proven by the, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I think they've proven that they are here to stay in the industry. I mean, they could have just rolled over during the pandemic and you know, gone by the wayside or you know, said, you know, and kept what they already had. But to me, they really are very seriously committed to the professional. And I love that about the Nikon brand, is that they're not just another camera company. They really have embraced the best technology that is out there. And I think that it has been proven over and over again, like for instance, that the Z9 is the beast to beat.
Yeah.
And as far as young people go, sure. I think that, you know, that there's always going to be a place for those that are creative to use their tools. And, you know, and I believe that it's very important for us to get the message out there to bite the bullet and buy the good stuff. if you know this is what you want to do for a profession, you're not going to show up at a wedding or do a portrait session with an iPhone. It's not going to happen. So if you want to be a pro and you want to get the job done right and get it done and know that what you've got is going to give you the best results, then to me, it's like laying a foundation. You can't lay a foundation for a business and do it, on cheap stuff. It's just not going to happen. And you can't rely on it. And to me, you got to have confidence in knowing that when you get out there with your gear, that it's going to give you what the results you want every single time. And that's to me, one of the greatest things about the Nikon brand.
I've got a follow-up. Excuse me, a follow-up. Bambi, can you recommend any 20 or 30 somethings we need to keep an eye on that are shooting Nikon?
Oh gosh.
I think that's where he was going with this. We don't see a lot.
That's a really good question. 20 or 30 somethings. I'm trying to think off the top of this. Is just a terrible time to ask me a question like that. Once we get off, I'll tell you all kinds of people.
I know how that goes.
But it's like my brain is in kind of fog this morning, and I can't think of anybody.
Next week I have Chris Hirschman on. He's another Nikon ambassador. Mm-hmm. He's a video content creator. But speaking about video, you ever switch the switch on the Z9?
Yes, I do, and I will tell you that that is something that I've been wanting to try. I haven't done it yet because it's like, if you do one thing, do it really well. But I have to say, I'm very intrigued by working in video, and I want to actually shoot. I want to shoot a video promo, and I believe I can probably do it if I put my mind to it. So that's on my bucket list.
Do you know that Z9 is packed with video features that most people are like unaware of?
Right.
That thing does video better than its rivals, and it has more features. A 12-bit and RAW. I mean, right, Chuck? I don't know the exact.
Yeah, it does. It does for those that really want to explore video that deeply. It goes beyond what's offered right now. Not that won't change anytime soon, but yes, for anybody that's serious video shooter, the Z9 is a very capable camera.
So yeah, I think I like switching that switch too sometimes. I joke with my videographers that, hey, I got some slow motion clips for you, man. Oh, you don't have an XQD CF Express Type B reader? No problem. I'll send them to you later. So, what's next for you in the future? I mean, is there something that you want to do?
Good question. I'm doing it. I don't, I'm just doing it. I get to have the best of both worlds. I am able to pursue my craft as a photographer, photograph the kind of events that I want to. I love photographing little kids, and I also still love photographing weddings. And I have an engagement session tomorrow night I'm very excited about. I really like the whole ball of wax. I find it, no day is the same. And I think that's one of the things I love about being a professional wedding portrait photographer. It is such a privilege that people allow you in to be part of their intimate events, their personal lives. I think it's just so amazing. I've got a family that I'm working with that I'm going to fly down on Saturday. One of my brides had just her and her husband had her first baby, and I'll be doing their newborns first pictures. But in this family, I have photographed 3 of their 4 daughters, and I've got a wedding coming in October for one of the daughters. So this is what I love about photography, is that you get to be part of someone's life and see their heritage, as their children grow up. I shot a wedding last year or 2 years ago, before the pandemic rather, for a client that I photographed the mom and dad's wedding. And now I'm photographing their children's event. And I got to tell you, it doesn't get much better than that. It's just really wonderful. I have families that I've photographed their newborns, and now their kids are graduating high school. And, so that's just, I guess the whole thing to me, it's about the people. That's really why I love why I do what I do. It's because of the people.
That's awesome.
You've been doing it a long time, Bambi. And again, I go back to just your creative process, I think, is what makes you relevant today as much as you've been in any point in your career.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
A lot of comments, a lot of people talking about, you know, how they enjoy your content so much, and not just that, but your ability to share what you're doing, and you make it so easy to understand as you go through some of the things that you're talking about, which is why I would tell everybody to go check out some of the videos that you've done over the years, all the way back to Creative Live days. They were just fantastic, which is why I watched them, because there was so much to learn.
Well, I'm glad you
Yeah.
found them.
Yeah, you have a lot of content, you know, that others have interviewed you, or you on stage, and it's amazing. A whole host of knowledge, like valuable content on the webs, you know, that you gave to us photographers, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I'm
Yeah.
active on Instagram and on Facebook. For those that are interested, my Instagram is Bambi Cantrell, Bambi Cantrell. And if you email me, you can email me at bambi@cantrellportrait.com. I do answer all my own emails, and I'll do my best to answer any question that you have.
Awesome.
Just opening up that for questions is fantastic. So many, you don't get responses anymore to a lot of questions you may have with other photographers, and I appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Just a couple of other more questions. Do you think we'll see a Z8?
Who knows?
And if we do, what would you want to see in that camera?
I am
Smaller
the
version of
last
the-
person to ask that question. I
All
mean,
right.
I mean,
Got it.
the tool that is in my hand right now is the best I've got. So, and I'm very happy with it. So, and I'm not a good person to ask about upcoming
Tech.
technology.
How do you feel the Z9 is in your hand? Do you think it's because do you think it's the size is right? Because you're coming from a D4, so you're
Mhm.
used to that.
Yeah, I am. Now, I will tell you, coming from the Z7 to the Z9 was huge. It's way heavier than the Z7 is, or the Z6. I mean, I could hold those in one hand. But I think there's benefits to both. To me, during like a wedding reception, the reception part, that may be a time when you might be, inclined to go with a lighter camera. But then I think to myself, well, wait a minute, I don't want to do that, because I mean, I can photograph in the dark with the Z9. So, but again, I grew up with heavy cameras, so I like them. I feel secure with them. I can hand hold the camera and with a very slow shutter speed and without any camera movement. I've always had that ability. But to me, the heavier camera body made it easier for me. Like I can hand hold it a fourth of a second without any problem. No camera move, even with the 70-200 lens on the front. So I just like that.
Great, that's awesome. What was your defining moment as a photographer? You think your defining moment? You said.
Oh, I can tell you exactly what it is. About 9 years ago, I have photographed this family for generations. The Cohen family, you might know Skip Cohen. He was president of Rangefinder and such for a long time. Well, I photographed their family for many, many years. And because I photographed their family, I know their parents and the grandparents and so forth. Well, one of the daughters was getting married about 8 years ago. And one of the things that I always, as part of my family tradition with them, is I always do family portraits the day after the wedding. So, it was a snowy day. So the only place to do the pictures was up in my room, in my suite. So I said, okay, you guys come to my suite. And so here comes the grandkids, and they're like 7, 8, 9 years old. And one of the things that I do with little kids is I go, okay, hey, look, I want each of you one at a time to get on the bed and jump on the bed for me. And just because it loosens them up, and then they'll do whatever I want them to do. So the youngest gets up there and he's jumping on the bed. I get great pictures. The middle one gets up there and jumps on the bed. And then the oldest. Well, then about that time, I see great grandpa walking over to the side and taking his shoes off. And I go, Ralph, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm going to jump on the bed. And the guy's like in his 90s. I don't remember how old he was, but he was way in 90s. And I go, you're not going to jump on the bed. You're not going to break a hip or something. All right. What does he do? He gets up on the bed and he jumps and falls down on the bed. That is, to this day, is my crowning achievement as a photographer. It is the most special moment I have ever captured in my whole life. It still brings tears to my eyes because here's why it was so special. Great grandpa, sometimes with elderly ones, young people just kind of think that they're just sit them over in the corner, you know, basically, and ignore them. And they're just old people and they don't see anything about them that is a real person. And this to me was a gift to those great grandkids. This is something that they can tell their children about. You know, my great grandpa, when he was like 95 years old, got up and jumped on the bed, and here's the picture of it. And that is to me and the look on his face when he's laying on the bed just laughing was just so fabulous. It just was so amazing.
That would be a great moment. I think it's fantastic.
If there was, go ahead.
Go ahead, Vaughan. James' question.
I was just going to ask her if there's anybody in this world you would like to photograph in the future, who would it be? Portrait of.
You asked me really hard questions. Yeah, that's a good question.
A celebrity or another photographer or somebody that, you know, wow, I would love to photograph this person.
Again, there's too many to even think. I have no idea. Everybody.
Who are some of your influences as a portrait photographer, other portrait photographers from the old days?
Oh, Avedon, number one. Richard Avedon's work is just so amazing to me. I was very inspired by George Hurrell. In fact, he is, I say George Hurrell is the one who really made me pivot. Remember me telling you how that the second year of photography, when I quit working for the photographer, and when I did that bridal fair where I showed nothing but black and white, directly influenced from George Hurrell. I bought George Hurrell's book, Hurrell's Hollywood, and it made me really appreciate drama and the importance of the dramatic image. Because in that book, I mean, he painted all the catch lights in because the lighting is horrible. It's not like what we would call technically good lighting, but the images were dramatic. There's a picture of Marlene Dietrich in that book that is just so haunting and so amazing. I can see it in my mind even to this day. So I was very, very much influenced by his beautiful, really interesting, dramatic pictures of people. And a number of years ago, I had the chance to I was in Paris with my husband, and they had an exhibit at the Louvre. I want to say it was either Saint Laurent or Chanel. I can't remember who it was, but they had some Avedon pictures in there that were just remarkable. And so I'd have to say those two probably have influenced me greatly. I've also been, just photographers in general. I really like the work of Yervant. He shot my son's wedding. And I love Jerry Gillis. He's an amazing photographer, brilliant. Dennis Reggie for photojournalism. And actually, Dennis taught me the most important lesson I ever learned, period, in the photography of business. And that was to not price your services according to what you could personally afford. That's the best advice I ever got from anyone, ever, ever, ever. Because up to that point, I was charging so little for my services that I could afford to hire myself, and I was starving to death. And Dennis, the little light bulb came on. I was sitting at WPPI, and I didn't even like him at the time. I thought he was the big south end of a northbound mule. Today, he's one of my closest friends, and he knows I just thought he was such a jerk. And because he just would make fun of portrait photographers, and I was one of those people, and he was just so belligerent and completely obnoxious. But then he was talking about different people and how that you should not price what you do according to what your budget, what you personally can afford. And it just clicked. And I went, oh my goodness, that's why people will buy Louis Vuitton handbags or Chanel handbags. Do you think that only rich people buy those things? No. People buy things that they value. That's why a man will spend 3 months' salary on something she's going to wear on her hand because it's special. It's like we give ourselves permission in our life to spend money, to spend significant amounts of money on something at certain times in our life. At Christmas, people do it. On somebody's birthday, go, oh, well, it's her birthday, or, oh, it's our wedding. Or how many times, I don't know if you've ever had daughters, any of you guys, but your
Three.
wife would come, huh? You have 3 daughters?
3.
Oh, Lord, I feel for you. So no doubt your wife went, oh, but if they got married, oh, honey, it's her wedding. I mean, that's just what we say, right? And it's like, what that means is it's okay to spend significant amounts of money on a special day. And so once I tapped into that brain, that mindset, that's what Dennis was saying. It was like, oh my goodness, that literally is when my career took off as a photographer.
Wow. So you just went out and just said, you know what? This is what I'm worth and I'm charging it. And you
Yes.
weren't scared of getting turned down.
I was horrified. But
Okay.
you know what? The alternative wasn't a good one.
Hmm.
I said, well, then I'll just have to go get a day job. But it does tie into it's not just charging a lot of money. You have to have a quality product that is unique, that's interesting looking, that people feel emotional about. And but then again, it goes back to the fact that, I said a little earlier about, don't feel that you have to charge thousands of dollars to be really well paid to do your job. It's not about what you charge, it's about what you get to keep. And I know photographers who charge a lot of money, but they give so much of the house away that their profit is $500. It's like, honestly, is that really worth getting out of bed for? So,
wow. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think most photographers, especially new ones, they kind of have this issue with, okay, so what do I charge? What do I charge? What am I worth? Any tips on that, on figuring that out? Like,
well, that's a good question. I would say the first thing that you need to do is you need to figure out what it costs you to do business.
mm-hmm.
And then you figure how much is it worth for you to get up and to do that job. And if you can't be, and then, do you have a unique product? So I think sometimes the better, rather than looking to other photographers as your influencers, look to individuals just in the public, say, well, tell me, how does this photograph make you feel? And if they just go, yeah, that's nice, then you got some work to do. The other thing I would do is I would worry less about making pictures that everybody else does. And on your website, specifically, if you're showing the same things that everybody else has on their website, why would I hire you?
Mm-hmm.
So the things that should go on our website or in our portfolio or on our Instagram feed, in my opinion, are things that are a little bit that invoke emotion or personality. And like that's, on my Instagram feed, I try to post things that are just, fun or playful or a specific color. The color red is very motivating. Cute little kids or just, children in general. Videos, by the way, this is, what I've seen. I know that I've got to get better at putting more video on my feed.
Yeah. What?
Thank you, Tim, for such a sweet comment.
Yeah.
Tim Moore.
Wildlife photographer. See, and it's crazy because I have this question asked. They just have no idea what to charge, like for a portrait session, or I just tell them, what, like you said, value your time as a photographer. Value your time.
Yeah.
Don't give it away. Because you're influencing the market, and if you do good work, don't give it away.
Well, you know what? I just say don't give it away, period. Yeah. Because because beauty is in the eyes of the checkbook holder. Mm-hmm. It really is. It's in the eyes of the checkbook holder. And what one photographer might think looks like crap, another person might think, oh, this is the best picture of my child I've ever seen. So, I would just say don't do it for free because, you can't, you're just going to starve to death and then you don't get to enjoy your career. So,
yeah, that's a quote. Got it. Beauty is in the eyes of the checkbook holder. You're so right. Not everybody you fear will critique it.
That's right.
Well, yeah, but then there's the new photographers out there that want to jump the line, that want to start charging, that want to get those premier clients, but they haven't put the time into learning the craft. Put the time into learning, and like we have, we put in the time, but they just want to see, okay, this is a cool gig. I'm having fun at weddings. I can do this, but I think you have to put in the time too to learn the
Yes, you
craft.
do. And you very much have to do that.
Yeah. So anyway, this was a great talk, Bambi. I had a I had a blast talking to you, and I would just want to thank you for coming on Vahagraphy Talk. Chuck, any last words?
No, I've always followed you, Bambi. I'll continue to follow you just for that. What's new? What's coming next? I love the concept of the dresses with the fabric and everything. So I expect you're going to get a job soon as a designer for dresses.
Hey, you know what? If I wasn't a photographer, I would want to be a designer. I love fashion.
I'd
And
love to see a whole video of how you go through that process. And I'm sure everybody else would, because so many people are shooting portraits. And that's just a wonderful thing to put together for some exotic portraits.
it really is. And it's so dumb easy. You literally don't have to be the sharpest tool in the shed. I will tell you, there is on my Instagram feed, I think I have a video on doing both the dress, on how to do the dress, and also on my newspaper skirt. If not, I will be doing some in the next. I've got some fun shoots coming up where I'll be videotaping them as well.
Great.
So,
Looking forward to it.
well, thank you, folks, very much. I really appreciate the privilege you've given me to be here today, and I look
And
forward
and,
to.
and you stayed over, like we said originally, an hour, but you stayed 40 minutes more.
Oh, did I really? Holy cow! Well, you know me; I can't ever keep my mouth shut.
Are you going to WPPI?
Probably. Yeah,
Okay.
WPPI is a wonderful organization, and as I said, I wouldn't be where I'm at without it. I've missed very few. Up until 2 years ago, I never had missed one in 30 years, 32 years.
Yeah.
But with the pandemic, that kind of just screwed up stuff, didn't it? So,
Yeah. No, we'll see you there if we see you. All right. Well, Bambi, thank you. Chuck, it was great. Thank you for watching Vahagraphy Talk number 30 already. And next week, Chris Hirschman from Nikon, ambassador, video content creator. We'll
well, you
see you
all have a
guys.
great day.
Thank you, Bambi. It was a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Bambi.
Hey guys, and again, I want to thank you guys. Are we still on? Yeah, I think we're on.
Yeah, I think so.
I want to thank you guys too for being here and asking questions, and she was great. I mean, if you noticed, Chuck, I was just sitting there listening, and just that's years of experience right there.
Oh, absolutely. And she's not just a wonderful teacher, but a storyteller, that kind of teaches as well. It's great to sit and listen to her.
Yeah, it was great. I just wish I would have. Let me share the screen. Let me show you guys some of her work, guys, while we're here. So let me see. Share, right? Share. Wait a minute. Oh, guys, 1 second. Share screen. There it is.
Backstage pass, James says.
Are we on? Can you see this, Chuck?
Yeah, everybody's still in.
No.
I see it. Yeah, I see it.
Sharon. Okay.
This is why I kept raving about her work. Anybody that hasn't actually checked out what she actually produces, you need to do so. Some great inspiration in there, folks. If you're a wedding photographer or even a portrait photographer, a lot of inspiration comes from her photos.
Yeah, she's she knows how to market herself, man. And she's done great things. Got the attention of Nikon, you saw. And it's a true statement. It's a true testament. She's a Nikon ambassador, and that's great. You know what I mean? And she does excellent work. Let's see. Weddings. I saw. Let me see here. Yeah, I like her studio stuff, but I can't really find it. I think Google her name, you'll see it, right?
Yeah, she's another pro when it comes to light, whether it's natural or artificial. She's fantastic at reading the light. I was just talking to Ron Pollard about that the other day. You know, that light fascinates me too. I walk through the house sometimes and the light shines through a window a certain way. And I'm thinking, how can I take a picture of that? Or what could I use that for? She has a great eye for it, as you saw in some of her photos.
This do you see, what do you see now, Chuck? Do you
I'm
see my
seeing you're Googling
okay.
her, I guess.
Okay, so here's the stuff I really wanted to show you because this is because she didn't really show this
This
part.
is her experimental stuff. Not experimental. This is her. Um, she just like she said, every 3 or 4 weeks, she'll just set up a session for her to work through some lighting or something, just doing what she wants to do, not necessarily client work.
See, look at this. You see the red dress here?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Read the story behind that red dress.
And you've done that, huh?
This is the things that she does. She takes a bolt of cloth and makes it look like a ballroom gown in just a few minutes on a model.
Look at that. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So yeah, check her out, guys. Here, let me. How do you stop sharing? There you go. Are you back?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, guys. This was a great talk, Chuck. Yeah, as I was saying, thank you guys for being here and you know uh contributing to the live stream. But I had a great time. So next week, Chuck, we got Chris Hirschman.
Chris Hirschman. That's going to be interesting. For those of you that detest video, it might not be your favorite, but I think it'll be enjoyable for everybody because he's a very creative guy too. And that's what photography, in my opinion, should be about: the creativity, not all the numbers and number crunching and reviews. So
Yeah, we got he's a real content creator that makes videos, commercials. He's done a lot of work with for Nikon, right?
anybody remembers the launch of the I don't know if it was the Z6 or Z7, which one. He shot the music video of the girl with the blonde hair and all the confetti and stuff like that. If you remember that video, he's the one that Nikon asked to shoot it. So that's just one part of his work.
Yeah, so what I found interesting and I understand is that she doesn't mess around with talking about Bambi.
Yeah,
She doesn't mess around with the technical side of lenses and cameras,
gotta love that.
bodies. And she's still shooting single focus point, recomposing, All she cares about is the image. And we talk about this all the time on the streams. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's the image.
Creatives are that way. They're not worried about the numbers and all the microns and the whatever. Peter Hurley was asked in one of his live streams when he was shooting live how many feet from the subject he was and how many feet the light was. He said, I don't know. It's about this far.
Hey, I like this, Moz man. The post interview show.
Yeah.
Backstage pass.
Yeah, it was James. Yeah, earlier.
Oh man. Yeah. No, I like this, man. Because no, again, I had to kind of listen to her talk and she was great. I enjoyed it.
Well, yet again, this is another opportunity to really understand or feel somebody's personality, which I think is the best thing that comes out of these live video or live stream, not interview. I wouldn't call it an interview, just a discussion with somebody. And I mean, she's genuine. It's obvious in the video or in the show. And, everybody that comes on, and that may be what scares some people from live streams is their true personality is going to come out in the live stream, but it endears them to so many people once the people know, okay, they're real people. They're not something on a pedestal. So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because we all we do is, I mean, we see them on the internet, we see them posting Instagram stories and stuff, but we never really just do like a raw kind of sit down talk, you know.
Well, over the years, I had a feeling that Bambi was real. I think you saw what you get with her then, and definitely know it now. So, and just the fact that she says, "Reach out to me," she gives an email if you have questions or whatever. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. So I was kind of like, I had all these tech questions, Chuck, lined up, but then I quickly realized, you know, put those questions away.
Yeah, just conversation, man. It was just
Yeah.
great. It really was. I love that she opened up with her stories about how she began and all the events and things like that. That's just great to know. Not only is it entertaining to listen to, but there's wisdom in what she's talking about, how she came up and everything else.
Yeah. Hey, Mozman. Hey, I got an order in for the 800 today. Oh man, can't wait to take it at the beach and birding. Man, you're rocking it. You're rocking it, Mozman.
I just right before this, I watched a part of oh shoot, the Nikon guy, Matt Granger. He had the 800 out in Bird Park shooting birds with it, with the 2x converter, teleconverter, 1600 millimeter shots.
How do they turn out?
They look good. He's talking about the, fighting ISO at times. For video, it's fantastic. It doesn't bother, you're not having a problem. But with photos and real low light, yeah, you're going to struggle. You're going to have to crank up some ISO.
Anybody that wants to call and talk to us? I know Bambi just left, but we had her on for an hour and 40 minutes, and
Yeah.
it was good. It's it's a challenge for me too, Chuck. Sometimes, because I've never met some of these guys and gals in here, so I kind of have to you kind of have to break the ice with these people, and try your best. But I think it was a good show.
No,
Thank
I
you,
agree.
thank you, Nilo. Appreciate it, man. Nice logo, by the way. I like that logo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you were talking about the 1600 millimeter.
Yeah. He shot it with the 2X, the TC2X teleconverter. So you got an effective focal length of 1600 millimeter. He took a couple of portraits. He was laughing about it. It was more of a kind of a joke than anything else, but showing the distance between him and his model, it was hilarious. 1600 millimeter, gentlemen, man, that's incredible. I think it was F9 at 1600 millimeters, something like that.
Jeez. F9?
Yeah,
Yeah.
F11, F9, F11. I can't remember. So 6.3.
Well, yours is
2X.
your yeah, well your lens is 100 to 463, right?
Yeah,
So at the long end with the 2 times it's F11, no?
yeah.
Okay, so these interviews would happen. Thank you, James, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. So is that lens for you, Mosman, or are you gonna sell it? Yeah. I don't know if I would ever use. That's just ridiculous, Chuck. 1600 millimeters. Come on, man. Uh, that's just ridiculous. The atmosphere. It's not gonna have. You're not gonna have a clear image.
It
You
looked
know.
pretty good, actually, believe it or
Really?
not. Yeah, it looked pretty good. Finding your subject's going to be a problem at 1600 millimeter.
Man, I love this thing. I don't care what anybody says.
No, I agree. I agree with you. So where is the 800 to be relevant? I don't know. Birds and good light, but again, that's just for stills photos. The
Yeah.
video, the video with it looked pretty good too.
The good old 400 28G, guys. Ah. So
Ronald.
So what's on tap for tomorrow, Chuck? Or actually, yeah, tomorrow, right?
Yep, tomorrow noon Eastern time, we will be talking about the Z8. And it's about time for a good rant with Nikon. Although I do think that they are reaching out a little bit right now, which is a good thing. But with the latest, and I'm not bringing this up for any criticism or anything else, by you, Josh, for those that may not know already, has switched to Sony. And you know what? I applaud him. That's what he wanted to do. It fits him. It works for him. And I think that's great. So he didn't betray anyone. I still watch him for his content. But that said, would the Z8 have prevented, maybe or maybe not, would that have helped him in his decision-making process? I don't know. But there are a lot of people that are feeling the same way. And I'm going to be the one that, the mouthpiece that brings it out in public. Nikon needs to step it up and get us a Z8 quick.
So that's a topic for tomorrow.
That is tomorrow,
9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern.
Yes, sir. And everybody's comments and opinions are more than welcome. We ought to have a good time talking about this subject. Like, it's not like we haven't before, but I think right now it's hitting the critical point where Nikon needs to address this issue, because that segment in their camera lineup is missing. And I'm willing to I'm willing to take the challenge. Anybody wants to say that no, it isn't. The Z7 II is the fill. I disagree 100%, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. Everybody gets their say. You can even call in on the show and let me know how you really feel.
Hey, Mozman, well, are you getting this lens? You gotta let me review it, man. I gotta review that lens when you get it before you sell it. So, right, Chuck?
Yep.
I'll review that lens.
Yep.
I think you will fall in love, Mozman. I think you will. That thing's gonna be so light. I can just imagine.
I think for surfing, the things you guys are shooting, it's going to be the hit. That lens will be a super hit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, as soon as you're back, hit me up. I'll even go during the week. So let me know. And Mozman supposed to meet up with Jeffrey?
Yeah, that's tomorrow, I think, isn't it?
Are you live streaming that event, Moz? Actually, wait. Jeffrey has a channel, so Jeffrey should live stream it.
I think they're going to be out shooting, isn't that right, Miles? Man, that's what Jeffrey was saying.
Yeah. So, thanks for the great session. Just talking photography. My next lens is Chuck has a lens. It's a great lens. I used it too.
Yeah, the 1-400 is a great lens. It's got its purpose. It kind of subs as a super telephoto with the teleconverters, but it's a very versatile lens for other action photography where you want the ability to use all focal lengths between 1 and 400.
Yeah, that's icon.
There you go, Mozman. I'll send you guys the link tomorrow. So if you guys, while you're out there, want to stop for a minute and just join, you can update.
Oh, during your show, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So do what we do, Mozman, with Jeffrey Neville.
Yeah, you guys will have the link, and you can share with us what's going on out there.
Yeah, I saw your earlier comment, Airtime. But hey, no camera brand is perfect, man. There's always room for improvement everywhere. So.
And on that comment, Airtime, I would agree with you if they could bring it all the way up to the performance, AF performance of what we have, even close to what we have in the Z9 for birding. Look, I'm not a birder, so I'm not advocating Nikon cater to birders. However, the problem is that everybody is now basing their love of a brand based on nothing but AF, and AF in the Z9 is great. But for some reason in birding, it just doesn't stand up to Canon or Sony. I'm not saying that from experience. I'm just saying that that's the opinion, and Nikon has to find a way to change that.
I'm just scrolling up like you, Chuck. Actually, I
Yep.
scroll up. You scroll down.
Yeah, I try to
I
keep
scroll
up with
up. Chuck scrolls down, and I scroll up. I go the opposite way. But yeah, no, this is great. What was I gonna say? Oh, I was talking to Steve Perry, and I might have him on, guys, for a Vahagraphy talk in the future. He's over, I think, in Africa, or he will be. So he couldn't make it this month, but I think on one of these shows I'll meet up. We'll have Steve Perry on as well. So looking forward to that.
David. The 800 is the new portrait lens. You know, if you could get the same compression in a 100 millimeter somehow, that would be the ultimate portrait lens. But you just can't beat that compression out of those super tellies.
I'm really. Oh yeah, yeah. That's great. Steve would be great. Yeah. No, I want to get him on here, and he said he'll do it. He just has to come back from his trip, and a few others that might or might not. But I think he's gonna do it. So that's why I'm confident enough to say it on here. Um, I know I had a lot of requests for who's the Fuji guy that's with the goatee and the glasses. I don't remember, but you know, I've got a lot of requests from him and Ken. I would like to have Ken on here, Chuck.
Ken Rockwell,
No, Ken, the angry guy.
either one. Well, either one. Both are controversial.
No, 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 no.
The angry photographer. Yeah.
The angry photographer. Yeah, I he doesn't want to do it. I asked him. He's like, "What show? What show?" I'm like, "Oh, never mind."
He's so arrogant. You got to love it.
But I'd love to have him on, man. I'd love to have him on. It'd be a good show. Um, and you know, I welcome anybody. So how about Tony now? He doesn't respond. He's not gonna come on. He would have already, but but anyway. Well, there's a lot to talk about, but go out and just have fun, right, guys?
Yep.
Mark is a cool watch. Yeah.
Vaughan, I'm going to have to get out of here too. Now that I have the chance, I got to get back to work.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go too. But again, guys, thank you. Like Chuck always says, it's you guys make this thing turn.
Absolutely. You guys are the reason.
John Branch, the Fuji guy. No, I forget him. I forget his name, but I'll remember.
Somebody caught us beforehand. No, that's a call I have to take. Sorry about that.
All right, guys. Have fun. Thank you for watching. See you next week.